It's hump day, Mr. Tucci. It's the brain of the mainframe, Nile Scala here with teen sensation, Mr. Billy Tucci. What's going on, buddy?
Teen sensation, Bill Tucci. What's happening?
What's up,
What are you
bro?
doing, man? What's the good word, Holmes?
Oh man, I'm just getting pumped, dude, because I got some emails back today. Got
Oh,
some
you did,
great
man.
emails back today, yes, for our tomorrow night's special. So I think everything's going to come together. And later tonight, I'm going to make some promos and start, spreading it out through the social media.
Outstanding, outstanding. I almost got killed today.
Do tell, my friend. What happened? I'm glad
Oh,
you're here.
if anybody's on the Twitter, you'll see I was driving my truck, my Dodge Ram. I got a 2003 Dodge Ram. I got over 345,000 miles on it. It's now like a part of the family. So I'm doing about 70 miles per hour. I'm going out hunting. And I have, all of a sudden, my hood just flips up and smashes. It covers my windshield. Smashes the windshield. It just
Crazy.
I had a rusted or a rotted hood latch, and the latch must have just broke. And it sucks because I just got the car inspected and everything like that, and they didn't notice it. So I pulled over. Thank goodness no one was around me. I pulled over like, holy shit. And, well, got to get a new hood. And that sucked. I don't recommend that to anyone.
Yeah.
So that kind of ruined my afternoon.
Well, those are some
But,
beautiful pics you posted.
Oh, yes, yes. And my beautiful hood, my beautiful truck. I've done everything to try to keep it in great shape,
Yeah.
And yeah, no, there I went. Rigged it up.
Unbelievable. Well,
But,
at least you're safe, right?
Yeah, right. Nobody died, thank goodness. Especially any deer. But I also think it's the 5th anniversary of me shooting my biggest scoring deer ever out there where I was going to the same spot, and I think it was the ghost of him, putting the horns on me, if you will. But anyway, enough about me.
But wait,
Why don't
Billy.
Yeah.
What is? Did you get something? What is that on your shirt? What is that? An exclusive?
Yes, this is one of 3, I believe, or 4 crowdfunding comics official. The very first official crowdfunding comics wear.
Yes.
You see it? Beautiful
Absolutely
shirt,
beautiful.
made in America. And thank you, Niall. I'm wearing it with honor.
Yes, indeed.
And it's a privilege, and hopefully we can spread that out to the world and have everybody else to wear these things and share our brand, share our spirit of independence and positivity. And again, enough about me, enough about the shirt for now. Why don't we get to not only our guest, but also our guest host? So we get introduced to 2 of them, 2 greats. Niall, why don't you take it away, my friend?
So tonight, friends, we have a wonderful guest host with us, my good pal and Billy's good friend, Mr. Caleb Thusat, and our guest tonight, Mr. Joshua Plack. How are we doing, gentlemen? Welcome to the show.
Hey, good to see you guys.
Good. Thanks so much for having me on.
Joshua,
Yes.
It's great to have you. And, of course, Caleb, it's great to have you on as well. Before we start, Caleb, is your last name Thusat or Tusat?
You both are wrong.
Oh.
It's actually Tussat.
Tusat.
Yeah.
Tusat.
Or not Tusat.
All right, so Caleb's kicked off the show for embarrassing us.
That's what I'm here for.
Welcome, Joshua. It's great to see you. Now, again, I'm going to try to, hopefully I won't butcher it, but it's EUDAIMONIA?
Yeah, that's fine.
EUDAIMONIA. Now, with your new Indiegogo campaign you have going, you have, now, do you have the semantics? Because my Safari's reloading.
Yes, I do. So you are currently you have 11 days left. We'll bring it up on the screen here. You have 11 days left. You are at 48 backers, which is a great number. You're looking for $1,500. You're currently at $1,180. You're 78% funded. So you've got 11 days to make this baby happen, and I personally think you'll do this because the artwork in this book is beautiful. But before I get, I don't want to get too into it because we are going to later. After we get to know our guest a little better. So what I'd love to do, JP, do us a favor and give us your origin story. How did you get into comics, and how did this book come to be?
So I actually just graduated from university. I'm kind of an old head, that old dude that you see on campus. And I was finishing up studying literature, creative writing, philosophy, and history. And during my last term, when you have to fill out your credits, I signed up for a comic books class. And for me, it was like it was like being a kid again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I'd studied literature and I'd studied all the different ways, you know, these things work. And so to go into a comic books class, it was like revisiting a lot of the things from my childhood, but seeing them through like a completely different perspective, like seeing them for the literary works that they are, in addition to being artistic works. And so, you know, suddenly I realized that, you know, a lot of my writing just kind of fit perfectly into this. And so when you study literature and you study history, you kind of naturally fall into these pet areas that you just enjoy studying and looking at. And for me, that was pretty much Western philosophy, classic Western philosophy, and World War I. And so I started crafting this story that just once I got like some art going with it, it was magic. Like seeing those two side by side and seeing how the structure, the standard structure of comic books like worked so well for this. And that's, you know, pretty much, you know, that just got the ball rolling.
Oh, awesome. What made you gravitate towards like the era of World War I though? What was it about that entire point in time that seems to have inspired this book?
A lot of the literature I studied was World War I, and the philosophy is what's known as Stoicism, which for me as a kid, like I was a homeless teenager. Once I found Stoicism, that's been like absolutely huge for me personally in my life. And so, you know, Stoicism is the idea that we, you know, kind of construct our own meaning and purpose in life, and give ourselves definition. And so when I, you know, studying World War I, it's this kind of like tragic thing that can basically never happen again historically.
Yeah.
There can only be one point in history where you take, you know, battlefield tactics that are more than 1,000 years old and add machine guns to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much it. So, you know, that coupled with having more literate soldiers who were able to convey their experiences. Like if you go back and you read like poetry and prose from World War I soldiers, it's like, it's heartbreaking. And so for me, like kind of examining that and how people deal with the trauma of that one singular event was something I really just want to kind of explore. And that's kind of what this is.
You know, I'm not sure if I don't know if you ever listened to, you ever heard of Dan Carlin's Hardcore History podcast? He does an amazing, it's like, was it 13 or 6? It's 12 hours. It's 12 hours long, and it's him talking about, you know, the complete from World War I, from start to finish. And it is just,
yes.
Yeah,
I've seen a lot of that. My only issue with that though is that like a lot, like when we talk about World War I, we almost always talk about it from a geopolitical perspective.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, how different events shaped, you know, different nations. But like there's a whole story underneath from the people that were actually there that is, it's just like a different perspective, like a different historical perspective on it.
Mm-hmm. So when you were researching this, were you actually looking for like personal memoirs or journals or things to capture the human emotion that was going on?
So I actually did that, and then I did literature, I did poetry, and then on top of that, I did medical journals from the time.
Oh, interesting.
Like just to kind of study how shell shock was treated psychologically.
Okay.
And the best way I could sum it up is if you were really, really lucky, you would just get a bullet in the head by your commanding officer or maybe your comrades. Mm-hmm. If you were really unlucky, you would be treated in a hospital where the most recommended treatment for shell shock was that your doctor would sneak up on you while you're sleeping and try to scare the crap out of you, to try and scare the fear out of you. Like that was the most humane treatment at the time.
I wonder who thought of that one.
Wow.
You think about it now, and it's like, yeah, okay, interesting.
And then the Germans were just tying soldiers to like pieces of equipment and leaving them in the middle of the battlefield. But, you know.
In hopes that something would get them, or abandoning them there?
That by being exposed to more battle, they would be less afraid.
Oh, interesting.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, what a tragedy that entire war was, and you know, and all these interwoven alliances between, you know, the monarchies, you know, the various monarchies of Europe, and you know, it's hard to believe, but you know how the war, you know, it's been over 100 years. You know, last year.
Yeah,
you know,
years.
I mean, It's amazing, and you talk about the, like you said, the horror of this war. Again, you're using Napoleonic tactics or Alexander's tactics,
Hmm.
but like you said, with machine guns and flamethrowers and mortars and grenades, and and tanks, and armored vehicles and things like that, mustard gas. It's just it was really horrific. And I'm reading a book now about the United States entering the war, and how the advantage that the Americans had, especially when they really started churning it up in 19, in the end of 1918, the summer of
Hmm.
1918, is in that final battle. We threw 1.2 million men into that battle.
Yep.
And just how, and the French under Foch, who was the general, the field marshal, the commanding of all the ground forces in Europe, he threw the Americans in there because a lot of them were still enthusiastic, like the French and the British and the Germans all maybe were in 1914. They hadn't seen the horrors of war yet, and they hadn't lived in the real trenches. I mean, they might have experienced trenches, but not 3-4 years of trench warfare. And and they would just, I mean, you talk to Blackjack Pershing, the head of the Americans, and he just felt that, they weren't involved, they didn't experience that thing, but the American troops were tougher and better equipped and blah blah blah. And again, a lot of them were, but they also had this spirit that they knew they were coming. It's amazing, again, right, Joshua, the psychological aspects of it, because the Americans believed this too, that they were the ones that were going to win this war. And whether how naivete it was, and I mean, we lost 100,000 men in that war, killed, and it pales, of course, to the Germans and the French and the Hungarians, but brutal, just insane. And again, you're right about all of these amazing, the poetry that came out of it. And again, like a lot of these, this romantic thing, because no one had seen war like that for so long. I mean, the Americans had our Civil War 50 years before, but that was a forgotten memory. And what was the last land war really in Europe was what, the Franco-Prussian War, which was a small engagement, for the most part, 40 years before that. So all these romantic notions, them riding in without helmets, or the French. Remember the French? They still wore their, their cuirassiers, the metal.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And they had banners, and with red pants. The French came in with blue and red pants, and
Hmm.
and they just walked into this meat grinder, and it was just terrifying. It astonishing. And like and Josh, as you were saying about the the psychological effects of seeing that, and then the treatment. Wow, never again. And thank God for that, right? I mean, damn.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's why like talking about this book has always been really hard, because people will see this and think oh, it's a war story, but it's actually like a peace story. It's the campaign is timed so that it's going to end within a couple of hours of the 101st anniversary of when the armistice happened. And so this book is kind of like a continuation of peace, and people coming to grips with what happened to them, and kind of forging a little bit of eudaimonia for their life, because eudaimonia basically means good life. And so that's really more what this book is about, is people grappling with those kind of issues and overcoming them, just kind of forging ahead.
Is that Greek, eudaimonia?
It's from, so there's some dispute. It's Aristotelian, but Socrates kind of picked the ball up and ran with it for a bit, which inevitably means Plato picked the ball up and ran with it for a bit. So,
well,
basically,
that's how you say, if it has roots in Greece, or they picked it is definitely eudaimonia.
Yeah,
that's the proper. I can speak a little Greek, so enough of me. Let's talk about you. I'm sorry.
So let's back up a little bit though. And growing up as a child, were you into comics, or no?
Yeah. Let's see here. I was like a jock kid, so my first comic was, I was just into collecting and trading, and I think I traded a Joe Carter rookie card for Neymar the Submariner #1, and that just kind of got me, yeah. But like, I was always into kind of weird comics. I love the Max. I love like the Fable books.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I love like the really weird old art of like Ditko, and I mostly stay with like weird or classics.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, has
And
any
did-
of that inspired you to write the way you do now?
Yes, because like I was saying before about like comic books being, you know, serious pieces of literature, it all translates. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I when I read Beowulf, it makes me think of Spider-Man
Hmm.
and, you know, responsibility versus, you know, the people that are around you. So like they just kind of all bleed together for me.
Okay.
Now, did you always look at comics that way, or when was there a point that kind of turned a corner? Was there something that you particularly read that like opened your mind to what comics could be?
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good question.
it was kind of like a huge disconnect. It really wasn't until I took that class and kind of revisited a lot of things that, you know, who I was as a kid is absolutely nothing like the person that eventually clawed their way to being able to go to college.
Hmm.
So it was really just like it was like old and new at the exact same time. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like it was something that was really
Yeah,
familiar, but it was just being translated through a completely different, almost like a completely different mind.
interesting.
It,
Yeah,
I find
that
it,
makes sense because like when for me it was totally different because I didn't really grow up with comics. I knew the characters and things from different media, but like I grew up mostly with movies. And really, like, I had only really known about that there were like superhero comic books. And then when I read, it sounds cliche, but when I read Watchmen by Alan Moore, it like opened this
Mhm.
door
Mm.
to what comic books could be and what the storytelling could involve more than just the typical, you know, Superman or Batman story.
Mhm. And one thing I kind of want to touch on really quick, the way you were talking about, going back to school a little later in life. I still, I'm still going to school. Well, right now, my wife, it's her turn, to go this year to finish her 6-year degree, and then I'll pick back up where I left off. But do you find,
That's exactly what me and my wife did. She went to school, and then I like basically kept the roof over her head.
yeah,
And then once she got her degree, it was like, all right, buddy, it's your turn now. And
yeah. Well, we were both
That's
doing it,
cool.
and then we had kids, and it was like, all right, well, your degree is going to get you a lot of money. My degree is going to get me self satisfaction. So
yeah,
I was like, you got to finish yours,
Uh,
and then I'll go back to mine. But I
sorry, I didn't mean to
noticed.
interrupt you.
Oh no, not at all. That's what we do here. We'll just talk over one another. It's
Okay.
fun. But me and Billy do it all the time. Um,
Yeah.
what are you gonna do? But I do find like learning now, right? And then remembering what it was like learning when I was 18 to 21 or whatever. The way I absorb information, I really do appreciate schooling.
Yeah.
Like it's unbelievable. I was never good at writer or this and that. I went back to school, and the school offered me a position in the English department. It's like it's just incredible how you change and absorb information and the way you learn, appreciate learning. Like it's horrible because you almost wish you could go back in time and be like, here, take this.
Yeah.
You will
yeah.
appreciate this, and it's just you get so mesmerized, and you're like a sponge, and you absorb everything. You want to sit in the front of the class. I mean, did you find it that way for yourself going back to school?
Um, yes and no. Like one of the things that was always really frustrating was how it like when you're my age, it seems like nobody else around you is paying as much attention as you are. So like you just see all these kids just like sitting on their phone and it's just like, what are you doing? Like this is all really important. Pay attention to all of this.
Yeah.
Like I took a class, you know how you take the class on like physical fitness and like why it's important to exercise. It's like a requirement almost
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah.
Um, I took that so seriously. Like, there's this woman up there talking about fitness. I'm just writing everything down. It's like I have to keep a journal of all my exercising. And like 6 months later, I'm doing like 5Ks a week. Like that's, and I still do that to this day. I just absorbed everything. Like, yes, absolutely, heart rate. Yeah, importance of, keeping your workout going for 25 minutes. All of that. Yeah, just yeah, everything got absorbed.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Were you the guy? Well, I don't want to say the kid. Or the guy in school when your teacher's like, "Okay, so is that it?" And everyone's like ready to start to pack their stuff up so they can leave. And like, well, I have one more question about that, and the collective groan in the classroom.
Yep.
'Cause
Yep.
Oh
Absolutely.
man. So now you're back in school. You know, you're learning all this amazing stuff. You're taking everything, and something's culminating. Something's building up inside your head. I mean, how did this all begin? Like, when did these thoughts start coming for this story?
Um, actually, so I'm a Philly boy originally, and we moved out to the West Coast for school, and the whole idea of it was we were just kind of I love the city. If I'm not in a city, I'm just angry. But we're driving through like I think it was Nebraska, just where like everything is flat and you only get 2 radio stations on the dial. And I just had never been to a place that empty before. And for whatever reason, the first thought I had was, I wonder how a secret would travel out here. Like how do, because every neighborhood has secrets, but there's always information just kind of bip bopping between heads. What if there was like a secret out here? Like what would happen to it? And so like that's kind of where I got the idea that I can't really elaborate on too far because that would kind of spoil the book. But it was basically just like how how things can kind of fester in people and how if it doesn't have anywhere to if there's no other person to transmit it to, what happens? And then once I introduced the idea of like, somebody coming home from World War I, how that would play out, and there's the idea of like not being able to kind of extrapolate the things that a traumatized soldier had been through, and how that somebody who's like acting a little bit off in a very small town where the secrets are festering, how that would build up. And so the first story is basically about that town where that soldier is, and that secret just kind of building up in the citizens there until it reaches kind of like the end of a Twilight Zone episode where everybody has to know, well, yo, what is going on with this guy? Why is he so quiet and weird? And then that just kind of opens the lid for the second story, which is about his coming back from the war and what his secret is. And then it's kind of like a circular narrative where the girl on the cover there playing the cello, she's not even in the story. Like she doesn't have a character, but then her story is going to be in the second issue. And then there's going to be another character in that one that's going to circle back into the first narrative. So it kind of works its way around the characters.
Oh, very cool. So what I want to do, if you don't mind, I want to jump into your campaign. I want to play the video. I want to start getting into more about this book and the story. So
Sure.
I'm going to head over here, guys. So what I'm going to do first is we're going to play the video, the Indiegogo video, so you guys can check out some of this awesome art.
Yeah.
So here we go. Song. Is that an actual song, or was that written for your campaign?
So that's a band out of Boston called Defeater, and they're a hardcore band, and they're really interesting because every album is a narrative about a family in post-World War I America, and each album is the perspective of a different character.
Mm-hmm.
And they put out an EP about an African American soldier coming back from the war. And so what I did is the Harlem Hellfighter, the story that gets unlocked when we meet our goal, is kind of like an unofficial prequel to that story about that character's father. And so there's like little notes in the story that if you happen to be one of the few people who's a fan of that and reads it, you're going to notice some things that kind of explain things that happen on that EP.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Wow.
That's awesome. I'm glad you said the name. I was about to ask you, what's the name of this band? I like that.
Yeah,
That's my kind of music.
Joshua, that art is just painfully beautiful. I mean, you could see the pain and just the, I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, it really is. It's just gorgeous. And if you want to, I don't know, tell us about Emmy a little bit. Is it Emmy? Is that how you say it? Utera?
I think it's Emmy, but that
Emmy?
Yeah, that's Emmy.
Tria?
Headley. Yeah, so I had gone through. I'm sure you guys know this. Like when you deal with a lot of artists, just how many flakes there are out there.
Yeah.
And so I had gone through like at least a dozen artists that were just like they would, because the book is, let's be honest, the book is kind of weird. Like it's a little weird, it's a little bit niche. And I would talk to artists and they'd be like, yeah, and then I would get like some art back and it just didn't fit. And then I feel like I tripped and just fell into a pile of gold. Like I just found Emmy on the internet and he sent me some art. And as soon as I saw the first sketch, I was like this guy gets it. He's phenomenal. We talked about like different art influences, things from like the Harlem Renaissance and stuff like that. And like like those kind of like thin frames and thick lines. Yeah, like we talked a lot about using color to kind of reinforce what's going on. And like on that cover there, it's like we were talking about how much, because a lot of this, like the girl with the cello basically is the sublime, like the idea of something that is simultaneously, beautiful and terrifying at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about like representing that visually. And so like if you're looking at the top of the book, man, it looks like it could be a kid's book. But then the further you go down the page, it's like the horror starts to come out, which I think is like a really apt metaphor for what World War I was. It's like this idea of like, heroism. And then you get there and it's nothing like the reality of the war itself is there's nothing, great about it.
Right.
But yeah, we talked a lot about, using different color palettes to signify different things, how primary colors signify pain and how secondary colors or like softer pastel colors kind of signify peace. So anywhere you see a lot of those colors, that's pretty much what they're there for.
Oh,
Wow.
Nice. Yeah, beautiful. Now, are they French? Is he French?
The soldier,
Yeah. Is
it's
he
actually
American?
it's actually undefined because he basically enters the war at 15, which that was pretty common in England and France, but not so much in the U.S. So I kind of just left it an ambiguous origin.
Mm-hmm. No, it's astonishing. I mean, again, his color palette, is and just the draftsmanship, your storytelling. I mean, like it's just painfully beautiful. That's what it comes across as to me.
Yeah, it
And
is.
and how did you meet? You met Emmy on the internet. Now, how do you find? And Caleb, I think we talked about this.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask that too.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Caleb. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, for the people that are looking or maybe writing a story and want to try to find an artist similar to the way you did, like, how exactly might you have found someone like that? Just joining groups and asking around, or?
So there's actually a subreddit called Comic Book Collabs, and I basically went in there and started sorting every post by the amount of views or the amount of, I guess, upvotes it was getting. And then just looking for artists that had good-looking things, messaging them. And yeah, I basically found him and made him a page rate offer that he couldn't refuse.
Yeah.
Nice.
Wow. It is. I mean, his work is incredible.
Yeah.
Now, did
It
he do?
really is.
Did he do everything? Is he?
Yeah.
So he inked everything, colored everything.
Yeah, I mean, apart from us just kind of communicating through email about like, page layout, and if I put in some kind of like color notes or like reference images. No, it's all him.
Oh wow. And where is he from, if you don't mind me asking?
He's from Argentina, so actually it's kind of funny. He doesn't speak English,
Yeah.
so our emails are basically translated in Google Translate to one another.
Yeah.
And it's worked, but like every once in a while, like there'll be a hilarious moment where, so like last week, he sent me a couple pages, and I was like, "Oh, hey, you want to do these 2 pages first? Sorry if there's any confusion." And he emailed me back, and he said, "Hi, I understand. I'm confused." Which I'm pretty sure that was him saying I was confused, and it just got mixed up along the way.
Well, you know what's cool? Like, Argentina, South America, that whole area. I mean, they have some incredible artists down there.
It's
And
crazy.
but a lot of them kind of have a similar style, right? But
Yeah.
this is very unique.
Yeah.
This is exceptional. And I think it's when I'm looking at these pages, Josh, I feel like I feel like I am, in the early 1900s, right? Like I feel like I'm actually in the era of World War One. His color concept, everything. Now, did you guys talk about all this, or is this just him going through, getting it done, sending it to you to, review? Or are you guys talking about, how you wanted the pages to look and how you wanted your panels to be and everything?
We talked about a couple different things. Like the reference images are usually like specific people.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the art style, the thing that we talked about a lot is, and somebody else actually pointed this out to me, and I didn't notice it at the time, but the New Yorker, like how the New Yorker used to look, how the shapes were.
Oh, okay. All right, I could see that.
All right.
Very cool.
So
Yeah,
is he actually varying the color palette and the art style for each story too?
Yes, because right now we're working on the Harlem Renaissance, which is going to be a little bit more in the style of the Harlem Renaissance. Or sorry, the Harlem Hellfighter is going to be a little bit more in the style of the Harlem Renaissance. So you might see a little bit. There's not as much line work on frames in Harlem Renaissance style art.
Oh, nice.
That
That's
page right
cool.
there, the one that's up there, is basically we talked about like I just wanted to sneak in as many literary references that I could,
Mm-hmm.
and I asked him to do a couple too because we have a lot of the same. Like he's a big Toni Morrison guy, I am too. So yeah, and he sent me the page and I was like, how the hell did you do this? And then I started Google image searching like the actual front pages of the books, and they're all like exactly. So he actually took the actual pages of it and just kind of warped them around to show that kind of literary storm swarming around that guy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
and you know what's amazing though is how he was able to capture that when you guys have this, this language gap between the two of you, like almost like a barrier, and he nailed it because it's beautiful. I mean, what a design! That page layout is just incredible.
That's pretty cool.
That's really cool how he did that. It's incredible what we can do nowadays. I mean, in just the whole indie scene. I mean, Josh, like, before, chatting, via email and through Twitter and stuff. I mean, it's so. I just think it's amazing. It's hard for me to even describe how I feel, because it's like I didn't know you too long ago, right? And now we're getting to meet you, we're getting to know you, and we're getting to see this incredible book. I mean, this is fantastic. I mean, the concept of this book is like nothing I personally have really seen.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, why we do this show. You know what I'm saying? Like stuff like this. And guys, please share this Indiegogo. Get this out there. Back this project. I mean, this is incredible. I'd love to see some more of this. I don't know if you do updates with your Indiegogo or whatnot, but any progress stuff you have going on. But I mean, this is awesome, dude. This is really, for me right now, in loving history and what's out there. I mean, right now for indie books, like your book right now is in my top 5 right now.
Yeah.
And I really would love to see more of this. And really, again, I'm just gonna encourage people out there to share this. If the funds aren't there this month, that's fine, but share this book. This is incredible. This is so far from what we're getting to learn about this. This is an amazing story, a very complex story, might I add. How you've incorporated everything that you've learned, with literature and history, and bring everything together, and then taking the time to actually say, okay, we're gonna have these certain colors influence basically certain emotion. So while you're reading subconsciously, I believe your eye and your mind are gonna pick up on everything. I bet you this is gonna be such an incredible read. How did you lay all this out? I mean, really, like, did you have like boards everywhere? I mean, how'd you do this?
I actually haven't even told you the weirdest thing about this book.
It's a pop-up book.
So, what's that? No, but if you can pull up the one page, the last one that it was on, the one with the group of guys standing there kind of hulking at the thing.
This one here? Or do you want me to scroll down?
Oh, I can't see this.
I can't see it. Yeah, we don't see it
Oh, I'm
now.
sorry. My
Okay.
bad. Sorry.
So the weirdest thing about the book is, so that image right there, if you read the text, it says, so being a team of workmen, strong and stout, they set off in hopes of driving it out. The entire book is in iambic pentameter.
Oh,
So
wow.
I don't know if I have to do a refresher on what iambic pentameter is, but it's possible.
Yeah.
Do it. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
explain it for anyone that's watching this video. You know,
Yeah,
So-
do go
I was just
into
going
it.
to ask you that.
So if you've ever read Beowulf
Yep.
or Shakespeare, Richard III, iambic pentameter is where you have a series of lines that are all 10 syllables, and every other syllable is stressed. Like it's a sound that you would put emphasis on. And so you have to arrange all of the words to go da 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 da. And I did that because that was number one. That was the style that a lot of World War I soldiers wrote in. They wrote a lot of like sonnets, but also because I just thought it was fitting because it gives that kind of military rhythm. You know what I mean? Da 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 da. And so the entire book is structured that way. So it's all in iambic pentameter, alternating rhymes, except for the last two, which just rhyme concurrently.
Mhm.
I think there's like 5 pieces of actual dialogue in the whole book.
That's cool though, man. That's a lot of work here. That's a lot of work.
Very
So now
unique.
this is the first issue of a 3-part miniseries, correct?
Yes.
So where are we at now with issues 2 and 3?
They're all written. I'm going to have the very last page of the first book is going to have the cover for the second on it. We're working on that probably next week.
Okay.
And yeah, once this campaign wraps up, we're going to start, forging ahead with book 2. Probably have that campaign up in maybe definitely first quarter of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Very good.
What's your plan going forward? Are you going to be like taking these books around and trying to sell them at shows or doing events?
It gets a little bit murky. I think I'm gonna keep the shop open. I'm basically gonna do like a first print run, and there's a part on the page about the first edition promise. Basically, what that means is whatever the first print run is, they're all going to have a little gold first edition stamp at the bottom.
Oh,
And it
very
will-
good.
however many people get that, that's how many get that. So I'm probably gonna do. I'm thinking like maybe 150 to 200 copies, and just keep it in demand, and just keep selling those out of the storefront. But once that goes, that's gone forever. No other version of that book. So this is like the start of something.
Mm-hmm.
And one day in the future, somebody might say, "Man, where can I get that first edition of the first issue?" And it's gonna be like, "Well, we only did 150 of them, so that's how many exist out there."
Oh, that's very
That's-
cool.
So are you going to compile these together in a trade, maybe as some sort of graphic novel or
Yeah.
trade when you're all done
Yep.
with them?
Yeah, it's probably going to end up being somewhere around, like probably 100 pages.
Oh,
Okay.
Nice. But where are you? Are you on any other ideas beyond this? Like, do you already know what you're going to do once you're done with this miniseries?
Yeah, I've kind of had a story that's been lodged in my head for a really long time that I used to write like a couple years ago, and then it's kind of, how sometimes you put something aside, you forget about it, but then you come back and it's like, kind of revisit it. It's a story that I don't have a title for yet, but it's basically the idea is, imagine if people could develop superpowers, but you can only trigger them at the moment of death before you're about to die, and the superpowers kind of come out of like the worst part of yourself, right? So somebody's about to die, their superpowers activate, and if they save themselves, they have those superpowers. That's kind of where the story starts. And so the first guy is a guy called a pathetic man, and his superpower is that he is an apathetic man. So he is able to kind of control time a little bit and buy himself more time, which kind of reflects his apathy. And the other one is there's a schizophrenic girl who is able to manipulate how people perceive reality. And then the third one is a guy who was kind of just abused his whole life, and he is basically able to control every cell of his body as if it has, either the density of a burning star or the elasticity of, I can't finish this sentence. But then it's like basically those three people kind of, yeah, basically living in the world.
So that's I look forward to that. I hope you stick with that.
So, dude, I love the show. I love this show. Hearing these ideas, I mean, we never get, a lot of times if you go on the internet or Instagram, you could see art. You could see a lot of that. Twitter just seems like a sewer. On Facebook, you talk about your friends and stuff like that. But a lot of times at comic book conventions, we're all so busy, and then when the shows are done, you kind of want to have a drink, right? And kind of just hang out and laugh and, take a break. What I love about this show, Nile, is that, we're sitting here with Joshua, who's all the way in Oregon, right? Are you in Oregon?
Yep, unfortunately.
In Oregon, and and we have Caleb here, and we're having this conversation about creativity and ideas. And I just find it really inspiring. I mean, this is great. It really is. And sometimes the internet is good. Like you were saying earlier, Nile. We couldn't have done this years ago, or Caleb. I mean, Joshua couldn't have met Emmy. You know what I mean? To be the artist for his book. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of it's refreshing. Yeah. And
man, it's like I've been saying that since I started doing comics. Like I would have never been able to do anything that I've done without what the internet has been able to do, like with crowdfunding and me reaching out to artists. Like I didn't know anybody in the business. It's like look now, I'm hanging out with Billy Tucci and Nile talking on crowdfunding comics. So
it's a crazy world, man. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing for you.
Yeah. Hey, Joshua, when you went back to school, right? So why did you go back to school? What did you want to do with yourself? I mean, because you weren't thinking comics, right? You weren't thinking comics until you got to school, right? Until then you said, oh, maybe I can get into comic books. Or were you thinking comics? Like, what'd you go for your degree? And you went for your degree in philosophy. Like, what did you want to do with it?
I went back to school. I went the community college route. And then, by the way, anybody who wants to go back to school should always go to community college first. And I went back to school to become a math teacher. And I took an English class. And I just had this sweet old woman who, like, nobody has ever thought I've been able to be or do anything. And this sweet woman who's an English teacher, I think she passed away last year. She saw something in me. And she saw that I was able to, like, see stories a little bit differently and talk about them in a way that was a little bit differently, especially for a community college, I suppose. And I was just hooked. I was hooked on the idea of being able to tell stories. My father was like an insurance guy, and he could just BS with the best of them. So I grew up listening to people talk in a way, or listening to him talk in a way like he could talk about anything and just make it seem interesting, and being able to frame things in a way that, it wasn't what it was about, it was how it was delivered. And I just kind of realized, like that's maybe what I should be doing, is finding my meaning out of, saying something in a way that hasn't been said before, which is what a story is.
Yeah.
So Brian Blevins asks, can you ask Joshua how overwhelmed he was when he first got started with this project, and how much effort did it take to get to the completion point?
As far as the writing goes, I basically had the writing itself done for a while, but I had no idea what I was in for as far as like everything that goes into like making a campaign, and I'm kind of like social media inept, and just finding people who were, but like it's just been crazy to me, because like if somebody came to me and was like, hey, look at my book, be like, who the hell are you? Get out of here. So like learning how to not do that as you see other people who are just totally willing to like look at what you have has been crazy.
Yeah.
The amount of work that just goes into just keeping everything organized and on track, and looking at different printers and this and that. It's just like I didn't think it was gonna be. I basically come home from work and I start work, and
there you go. Yeah.
It's a different kind of work, and I'm not even that good at it. Like I come home from work and I feel bad that I haven't done anything in an hour, but it's fulfilling when you think about how, if I think about it at the end of the day and I'm like, hey, I got a couple people to look at my book and they hadn't looked at it before, that's it's tiring, but it's really fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
It's
You sound like a writer right there.
yeah, absolutely.
No, you know what? I was doing a stream one time, and somebody was saying because on my campaign, it's free shipping for everything, right?
Yeah.
And I've had people who look at that and they go like, "You're going to lose money," and it's like, "Yeah, but somebody's going to read my book. Like, who cares? Like, money's great, but like, I don't want somebody. I hate going into a store and not knowing how much something is. And you know, it's a book. It's 30 to 40 pages. How much do you really expect people to spend?
Your prices are the most reasonable for a new person that I've really seen. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're including shipping inside of it, like, it's not overblown. So I don't think you have too much to worry about on that. And I don't know how much you're spending on artwork beforehand. And like when I ran my first Kickstarter, I actually built artwork into the funding itself. So it was like shooting kind of for the moon in the beginning. So you have a much more reasonable first time goal than most people try. With it looks like you've done research.
It's just that it all just fell together. Everything fell together.
I mean, a lot of people will go in with like they'll think they can raise $5,000 on issue 1, and if you don't know what you're getting yourself into, that's not going to happen. Like,
I wish I could have made it 1K now if I knew. It was last second too. I was like 1K or 1,500 because like I've seen campaigns that have $500 goals, and it's just like that seems pretty reasonable for a first-time creator that no one has ever heard of.
I'm running one right now that's $500 because it's basically a reprint of other stuff that I put into like a limited edition double issue. So like I'm just funding the print run and to get it shipped to people. So
Yeah.
it was just a way for me to try to like get some more people on board with the story and get rid of some cool one-of-a-kind things that I had from other campaigns still. So it's like if you're reasonable about it, you were smart by using Indiegogo because you have the flexible goal as well. So it's there's a lot of perks to Indiegogo that I personally have always used Kickstarter, but like I'm about to switch basically because there's a lot of things that I found on the platform that I like better than Kickstarter. So
man, I think you should definitely go do that, with some of the inventory you have, start something up. Maybe do I don't know, you've got so many great books, man. I don't even know where to choose. Get something
Joshua,
going.
Caleb's an amazing creator in his own right.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's really cool. I mean, I just did this summer. I did a book that was set in World War II, and it had some ties to World War One, and it did really well when I did the first issue last fall, and I did it on Kickstarter. And I had built up a bit of an audience over a couple of years. That some of them came over to buy that book, but I was surprised at how much people were actually like interested in that type of story, especially when I go to do shows and I take these graphic novels, and that's the most popular book on my table because there's not a lot of comics and graphic novels being made about this type of content. So you definitely have something unique to share with people with this story.
Yeah, I actually got kind of unlucky because I'm pretty sure I'm going to get these books back in the printer right after the last decent-sized con in the Pacific Northwest. There's like nothing going on when it comes back.
Well, it's good to look for the small shows too. Get in and sell. You'd be surprised. Sometimes you do better at the smaller shows than you will at the bigger shows.
Personally, for me, you're right, Nile. Personally, for me, man, like the big shows are fun for networking and getting your name out there. But like, if you want to like sell books, do local small stuff that like people want to find that cool new book that no one's even ever heard of yet. Like I find so many people at small shows that buy that type of stuff. It's all rewarding to go to the big show and sell books too, but like to me, if you want to really connect with an audience, you get to do those small shows and you can actually spend time talking to people about your book, and you don't feel like you're being pulled in the 5 different directions.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you see a lot of consumers actually, like comic book consumers, people that want to buy and read comics, go to the smaller shows. I mean, let's face it, a lot of the bigger shows, you go to New York Comic Con, you go to San Diego, some of the other big ones, and you're there selling your stuff. And I sell so much more prints at the big shows than I sell books, but it's the opposite at smaller shows. At the smaller shows, I sell more books, and people are actually coming to find that they want to read new comics. They're looking for that, like Caleb had said, for that new content, that something different, and that they're specifically going there for the comics and not to see Captain America or whoever's in the new CW show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or the new girl from Riverdale or something like that.
And not too shabby looking.
Not too shabby. That's true.
Too shabby. So let me ask you, John. What's that?
Did you say nude girl?
Nude girl.
Nude girl.
Ooh.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
The only kind I like. So let me ask you. I mean, this is your first crowdfunding campaign. This is your first step into the arena of comics. I mean, how are you liking the independent scene? I mean, have you done? Did you say you did other streams? Have you been on any other shows or anything?
Yeah, they've been pretty. I mean, like, one of the things I find overwhelming is I was surprised at just how many people are just totally willing to just like have a complete stranger on their stream to talk about comics. Like it's crazy to me. It's like, hey, can I be on your stream? Yeah, like, okay, is that I need to talk to an agent or something? Like, yep, no, come on. But yeah, it's been amazing. Like, so many people have opened up so many doors. People are willing to just like, share and retweet. It's been amazing to me. Like, just how many people are genuinely excited for this. Not just my book, but comic books in general. Like, it's not something you see in a lot of other mediums.
No, I feel the same way. That's one of the reasons I got sucked into doing indie comics as far as I have, because everyone is very supportive, and because everyone wants to see everyone else succeed, because if you can do it, then they can do it. You know what I mean? So we're all trying to do the same thing and tell stories and share our art and creativity. So it's like, it's amazing to see this not dog eat dog, because I actually came from a film background, which is, I did indie film in Chicago for like a decade, and it's like everyone is stepping on each other to get anywhere. So it's such a contrast to be in the indie comic world. Then it's really cool to see that you're having the same experience 4 or 5 years later than me getting into it.
Yeah, and even different publishing mediums, like in almost any other publishing medium, self-publishing means you're a failure. And comics is like the only one where it's becoming more of a viable option than anything else.
Yeah. Well, I had posted a thing on Twitter today about if you're working on mainstream, and if you're working for Marvel or DC, you would make about they give 5% royalties to the creative team. So that 5% of the cover price after, say, 70,000 copies are split. So if you're the writer, artist, inker, you get 5%. If you're the writer, you only get 2%. Of that. So if you're writing Spider-Man, you don't see any royalties, or Batman. You won't see any royalties until that book sells 70,000 copies. And then you're getting only 2% of that cover price upwards. So, if you sell 100,000 copies, you're making maybe $2,400, $2,500. That's it. You know what I mean? That's your royalty.
Yeah,
Of course,
it's crazy.
age rate. So,
But the thing you're not figuring into that is how many pros are getting speaking engagements at universities. I think that's one thing that I mean, in addition to like cons and things like that, but like, yeah, it was shocking to me. If you go to almost any big university's comic studies program, they're bringing in these people, some that don't even sell all that well, and they're getting those speaking fees, and they're having their books sold for them.
No, that's well, that's a good perk. the
Well,
thing
the
I'm
books
looking-
alone, though, it's they're not making really anything off these books alone. I mean, everyone's driving to work for such large companies, right?
Yeah.
And get their name out there. But when they actually get to the meat and potatoes of it, they're bringing home pennies, and that's where they have to do the speaking engagements. That's where they have to do the conventions. That's where they have to do the
But it's-
commissions.
and it
You've
is
got
great
to be
to have that.
constantly doing it.
Yeah, and it is great to have that brass ring. And again, like you said, if you're writing a mainstream title, yes, you get all the Twitter likes, et cetera, et cetera. You can get, like I said, the people might know you for colleges and things like that. But man, I just love. I guess I'm so into after doing mainstream stuff. I self-published for about 10 years and 9 years. After that. I got a little burnt out, of it, and I wanted to do other things. And I've been real fortunate in the mainstream, but I am just so jazzed about, meeting new people like you and you, Caleb, as well. You're not quite new, actually. But to see these creators coming in with these projects and you doing whatever the hell you want. And you pitching this. I mean, just imagine you trying to pitch this story to say, it's a Batman story set in World War I to DC. And they'd be like, that's all right. I don't think so.
Yeah.
The suits, the powers that be. But here you are, here's Joshua coming in there. And you know what? This is the story I want to tell, and I'm doing it. And now you're becoming a publisher. So you're not just a creator. You're a businessman. You're a marketer. You wait and see. You're going to be the shipping department.
You're going to learn things you never wanted to know.
I'm so excited for that. Like, I'm legitimately jazzed about the idea of, weekend's here. Time to pull out the Gemini mailers.
Perhaps, yeah. Well, it's cool too. But you're an interesting thing because you're one of the few people that I've met in comics. Now, Caleb, I don't know about yourself, that actually is good at math. It was all my creative friends. Nile is very good at math, but
No.
most of my friends, we laugh of how horrible we all were at math. And I guess that left brain, right brain thing. But you've seemed to really kind of put it all together, and that's interesting. I mean, and now when you went to school and you wanted to be a math teacher, before you took the creative writing class?
That's how good at math I am. This is what I need. That's how I'm good at math.
Well, you could send a man to the moon with that.
Yeah.
But being that being so so analytical, or being someone that you can do math, you can do numbers, figures. When you took that class, that creative writing class, or the English class, did you do it just as I got to take this class, or you're like, you know what? I've always had stories I wanted to tell. Like did you always have that creative streak in you as well?
Josh, it was definitely on a whim. The creative writing thing coming about. It was basically, like I said, I went back to school to be a math teacher, but the math teacher was not a very good teacher, and the English teacher just kind of grabbed me, and it was just like, like she believed in me. I started exploring more creative ideas because, like you said, like I was always really analytical. I always have a random number. I would be like, if Two-Face was like Infinite Face, like I always keep a random number generator, like a tab open in my thing, just for weird things, like whatever I do. I developed a running routine that involves counting how many steps you take of everything in your head and basically extrapolating that into a fitness program. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely say that became a big part of my writing, with the whole like 10 syllables alternating thing. But yeah. Something really interesting. The last page of the first book is something I wrote that I don't technically have the rights to anymore. I won a writing contest for this piece, the very last page of the book. And so I still have the rights to it, but I don't have first publishing rights. So the very last page of the book is going to have an acknowledgement towards the first rights publishing owner at the time.
Oh, wow.
So,
hey, we got a $5 super chat from Brian, and I'm gonna probably murder this last name, Chrisgaw. JP, have you been on Antonio or Clint's streams yet? Those guys would definitely have you on.
Is that Antonio Bryce?
I don't know. He doesn't give a last name.
I have been on Antonio's stream, but being such a boomer, that was when my mic cut out with about 10 minutes left, and I didn't know how to fix it. And then I think he also forgot to put my link in the description, so that was an okay experience.
Gotcha.
Clint, I haven't been on his yet.
Okay. And then Brian Blevin says, real talk. If someone came out from that closet behind Joshua Plack right now and attacked him, I would not be surprised. The real surprise is that it hasn't happened yet. Hashtag scary lighting. It's freaking Halloween season, man. He's got it down.
I mean, if I shut it, it's going to be a mirror, and that's going to be even weirder.
It's just a swing. Just a reflection. But yeah, I mean, again, Blevins. Oh, Blevins.
Oh,
one of our
Blevins.
producers. He's a good dude.
Yeah.
So now, in the indie scene, man, what are you following? Are you following any other creators out there that have other campaigns and stuff going on?
Oh man, I'm really bad with names. The Macedonian Scroll.
Yep.
I think it's Kyrie.
Yep, Kyrie.
Kyrie.
Yeah. He was a
Kyrie
crowdfunding call out of ours a few episodes back.
That looks so good, and I'm getting it as soon as I get paid on Friday. God, what's that guy's name? Will Heroic, WILH. I think he's the first stream that I did, and it's kind of steadily growing. But I think he has his first book coming out pretty soon. That looks really good. God, I'm trying to think what else. What is it? The Gods Fear Me.
Oh,
That's a cool title.
That is a good title.
Mike. I want to say Mike Murphy, but I don't think that's right.
Okay.
And now I'm drawing blanks again.
Okay.
Put you on the spot. Nothing like putting you on the spot.
Love
Yeah,
putting
but
people on the
definitely
spot.
I have them in order in my head though. Definitely getting Kyrie, then The Gods Fear Me, and then whenever Will Heroic stuff comes out.
Yeah, very good, man. Very good. And now,
Josh,
go ahead, Billy. I'm sorry.
no. I was just going to think of, we've had this conversation with our other guests. What did your wife think of this, of your adventure? I mean, did she assume you were going to go to school to become a professor or something like that? A math teacher, and now you're like, hey, I think I want to make comic books.
Well, she's just about finishing up her PhD, and
good for her.
Yeah.
I've kind of fulfilled my end of it where I have a job. I'm doing really good now, or not really good, but doing pretty good now, which is really hard to do as soon as you graduate from college. The creative stuff has been going on for a couple of years now. I have about 15 or so publications under my belt. I have an award under my belt. I have 2 final short listings under my belt. So the publishing has been going on for a while. As far as like this actual book, the artwork basically calms all nerves. Like if you take a look at one page of this book, it legitimizes it immediately, and it shows that it's something serious. That's something that I take seriously. We take seriously. So yeah, she's been nothing but supportive.
Is she a fan of comics at all, or is that not really her gig?
Let me tell you, she could school me. Like I've actually picked up a lot of things from her. I came home. I wish I could show it. I came home from work the other day. She had a pile of like over 100 comics that she got from. She just heard through the grapevine that a bookstore was going out of business, and just went in there and just cleaned them out. Like at least 100 books. Like most of them Vertigo, but still.
Nice score.
Yeah, like I think I'm a nerd. Like she out nerds me like every day. Like we'll be talking about video games, and she'll be like, "Oh yeah, Elder Scrolls 1." I'm like, okay, all right.
Oh, that's funny.
That's crazy.
Have you gone to like you said, you talk about the conventions as well? Have you hit the convention circuit yet, or even as a fan? And which shows have you gone to? Which shows do you like?
I've actually never been to a Comic-Con in my life.
Wow, that's
You
I
gotta
know.
go. You gotta go.
Well, yeah, I think I
they're
might go
boring
to
as
the one.
hell.
Yeah,
It's horrible.
I think I might go to Rose City next year.
Oh, nice. Maybe you can get a booth, start selling your books.
I mean,
absolutely. Small press or something. Yeah,
There you go.
absolutely.
that's something I do need to look at is like what the pricing is like for that.
Mm-hmm.
And
They're
whether
not expensive. Some shows they might be $200 or something like that.
Yeah,
You know,
Mercy's
for a booth.
not too bad. I think it's like 250 or something for an Artist Alley table. You got to apply for Artist Alley, but you could potentially get something like that there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's great, man. It's awesome what you have coming out. Very excited to see what you have going on. Definitely get on the horn with some other shows. You've got 11 days left. Keep getting the word of your book out there. Hit up that social media. We'll continue pushing it. We'll continue sharing it on our social media. We'll try to squeeze you in for another crowdfunding call out on a future episode before your campaign ends. Again, I think you got a great book here, guys. Everyone,
beautiful.
get back on this. I mean. Wait, let's see. So, you've gotten one new backer. You're now at 49 backers. We'll refresh. We'll see if we got you anything else. But get on this, share it, back it, check it out. I mean, it's beautiful. The artwork's absolutely beautiful. The story's beautiful. A lot of time, a lot of passion. You can hear it in his voice when he talks about it, and now you can actually see it in what will be coming out in print. So again, guys, head on over to Indiegogo. Check this campaign out. Share it, support it, back it, do whatever you can, because he's almost to his goal. He's just under 300. $395, and he's there. So
yeah, you got this.
Yeah, you got this.
You
Absolutely,
got this, dude. And
I just want to add that if you guys like the art that you're seeing, you haven't seen anything yet. Like, it pains me how many pages of this book that I have to withhold from people because of spoilers.
Yeah.
Like, I've looked at pages of this book and just started just getting teary-eyed. So let stuff that's up there. Yeah, it's great, but it's not even close.
Yeah, what's to come is going to be breathtaking, I'm sure. And what I'd like to get into, guys, we've got. I want to do 2 crowdfunding callouts tonight. And this is where we try to get to everyone, Josh. We want to get everyone on the show, but sometimes we can't. And then sometimes we have wonderful guest hosts that may actually have something running as well. So what I'd love to do for anyone out there, let's check out. Caleb's got his campaign up. He's got 25 hours to go. He was looking for a goal of 500. He has exceeded his goal. He's at $782. He has 48 backers. I'm probably one of them, and I can't wait for the book. And you guys check this out. Another deal here. This is actually, Caleb, let you sell your product.
Yes.
Sure, man. So this is my crazy mashup take of a zombie genre. I just had this funky idea of making what I call a zombie superhero buddy road trip comic series. Basically, it's part Frankenstein, part Zombieland. It's got a guy that is kind of a cognitive zombie that ends up kind of using his abilities for good in a sense, and so it's got that superhero tropes in it, but it's also like a buddy action road trip, kind of like Supernatural on TV, like the 2 guys playing off each other. And it's got some fun stuff, it's got some dark serious stuff to it too, but it's definitely action packed, and I wanted to keep it going. It's kind of been a series I've been working on in the back burner when I work on everything else, and I'm gonna come back this next year with 2 full extra issues. So this is kind of a way to get things rolling again for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then also you've got Nook that they can add on to their pledge, right? Nook or
you can
Alter
pick
Life?
up my other 2 graphic novels that I've done. Nook, World War II Ghost Story, inspired by Guillermo del Toro movies, and Alter Life, which is a crazy sci-fi mystery about what happens after you die, but with some awesome twists and turns. You can pick both of those up just by adding to your pledge.
Very cool, man. So, guys, there's
Well
25 hours left. Just an
ends
hour
at
over a
midnight
day.
on Halloween. Come on now.
Ooh, there you go. You timed that good. All right. Let's check out some of the art. Great artwork. Now, Alter Life and Zed, is that the same artist?
It is.
It is.
Katrina, I got to know her for Alter Life, and I pitched her the idea for Zed too, and it was kind of like the complete opposite of the dark, heavy sci-fi that Alter Life was. So she was totally on board, and she wanted to do it. So it's kind of cool because you can see how her artistic style can vary. She's got a lot of talent and a lot of different mediums. So we have watercolors on there that she did, some like linoleum cutout prints that she did you can pick up on there, and yeah, all the artwork that's featured on there right now is all from her.
Very cool, very cool. And I'm going to play the video for any viewers that haven't seen this yet.
I'm Caleb Toussaint, the writer and creator of Zed.
Well, actually, Caleb, your video's long. I'm going to let that...
I was going to say, you can skip my video because basically it's me talking about what I just talked about, so you're probably good.
Yeah, I was like 3:45. I was like, all right, you know what? Sorry, buddy. I love you. But they can watch that video. So let's get into it. We got the second crowdfunding call out tonight. This one is for goodness sake. And this campaign was something that our producer, one of our other producers, Frank Amazing, found by Kaylin. They have 28 days to go. So this is a fresh campaign. They had a goal of $6,500. They're now at $7,107. I'm going to play the video for you guys so you can check this out.
Hi guys, I'm Caitlin Smith. I am the creator of the Western fantasy comic Plume. And now I am bringing you a new series called For Goodness Sake. It is an action comedy about two unlikely people coming together, traveling the US, and trying to unravel a curse. The series is somewhat based on true events. We did buy a school bus and we're renovating it into an RV. Why? Unlike my past campaigns, I am entirely on my own with this one, so there's no publisher or fulfillment center. So I am a little, scared shitless. But that also means that every package, pin, print, book passes through these hands, so I will make sure that everything goes smoothly. That being said, let's get into the goodies. This campaign offers the first arc of the story, the entire first volume, in both digital and print format, as well as some pins, commissions, a Thatcher doll, and even a mystery box for those who are feeling adventurous. So if you want to support this weirdo, back below, hello. So if you want to support this weirdo, back down below, and every little bit helps to put gas in that tank. So thank you guys, and happy backing. How was it? Excuse me. How was it? Was it good?
It's actually a funny video. So if you guys are familiar, she had another crowdfunding book, Plume, which was really well. Went really well. It was a Western comic. So guys, check that out. It's another fun book. She's got 28 days to go, but she's heading out of the gate strong. So check it out, share it, and let's get back to our main guest here again. Josh, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, it's been a blast. Love what you're doing. Love the book. I can't wait to get my hands on this. So again, everyone out there, check it out, share it, do whatever you got to do. This guy's got to exceed 1,500. So make it happen.
You really have an extraordinary concept and execution. Wow. Beautiful.
So much,
just stunning. Really, really stunning.
Yeah. So looking forward to any other stuff. How can people follow you?
We are at EUDAIMONIA book on Twitter. It's at the bottom of the page, or bottom of the crowdfunding page. If you want to get in touch with Emmy, it's just I think it's just at Emmy Utrera, but his link is on the page as well. Mm-hmm. I've actually said from the beginning that if more people can see and appreciate his art, then I'm going to be happy with that. And word is getting around just how talented he is, and that means a lot to me.
Yeah, very talented guy.
Thanks.
Very talented. So again, man, thanks again for coming on. Caleb, thank you for being a special guest host tonight. Mr. Tucci, as always, the man of the hour, friend. The teen sensation, Mr. Billy Tucci.
That's my name, JP.
And don't forget it. We gotta get that Tiger Beat cover out.
Well, you guys are great.
Yes.
And seriously, Joshua, great luck with the project. Caleb, you too. with yours. I really feel, and seeing, Caleb's new campaign, looking at Joshua's campaign, looking at Caitlin's campaign. I mean, this really is a new golden age in comic books. I mean, you've never seen the creativity like this, that people are putting their own books out there and publishing themselves. And it's just, man, it's inspiring. It really is.
We will reserve you a table at our crowdfunding Comics Con.
Yeah, we gotta have that. Yeah, that.
Maybe we should do a crowdfunding campaign for that.
Yeah, we do a campaign for the crowdfunding Comic Con.
For the crowdfunding Comic Con.
And it's all to bring our guests in, fly, guys in from Eugene, Oregon. And Caleb, where do you live? Because we're flying you in too.
I live just outside Cleveland.
Yeah, with no our flights don't go to Cleveland.
We'll all sit in the basement of a Hyatt and be like, so. Remember when you were on our show?
That's funny. Hey, Caleb, I actually made Skyline chili the other week.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Now, what is that? What's the significance of that?
Skyline chili is basically a Greek immigrant came over here and tried to make America food, and so he made a chili with no beans, and then he added chocolate, cloves, and all these kind of spices, and then he put it over spaghetti. And for whatever reason, people in Ohio just love it.
Yeah, that's like a staple.
It's a huge Cincinnati thing for sure. Yeah. It's like, it's big down there. So
where I'm from, the steamed cheeseburger is big. A lot of people don't have that. It's very good.
Steamed? That sounds horrible.
Dude, it's not horrible. Okay.
I'm sure it's not.
It is delicious. I would like to send you a formal invitation to come to my house to eat a steamed cheeseburger with me. But then you must immediately leave.
Are those steamed hams?
What's that?
Are those steamed hams?
So it's steamed?
It's beef, bro. It's beef. You put it in a metal cabinet, right? It's a metal cabinet. It has shelves in it. In the bottom's a basin for water. Then you put your meat in the trays, and you slide them in.
And you put the cheese on it,
and then you put the cheese in the trays, and then you steam them. You throw them on a lovely bun of some sort, whichever you like, and then you spread that ooey gooey melty cheese on there. Unbelievable. Believe it. That's how unbelievable
Joshua,
it is.
I guess Nile can steam a good ham.
I can steam a good ham, my friend.
No, it's just the Northern Lights.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? My son can do that whole bit. Let me see if I can get. Forget it. He does the whole bit. It's hysterical. All right,
gents.
Joshua, great to see you. Caleb, great to see you. Seymour, you're an odd fella, but you sure can steam a good ham. So. You know what we're talking about, Niall?
Never. I never know what anyone's talking about. And I say it with a smile. All right, everyone. Because I don't know shit, it's time to go.
Yeah, we went over again. Dang it.
Yeah, we did. What are you going to do? Josh, hang on. We're just going to do our thank you screen. And Caleb, hang on, and we'll chat a little bit after the show. All right, everyone, have a great night. We will see you tomorrow. I'm not sure what time yet. I got a bunch of cool guests lined up. Just got to finish getting it coordinated. It's going to be a little Halloween special.
And I got a new hood.
Yeah, new hood, bro. We're gonna kind of give up the comic talk for a night and talk to some real paranormal investigators. Well, I'll give you a little bit. So we've got let's see, we've got our buddy Howie Knoll, who was on the show. He is a comic creator, but he's also a paranormal investigator. Best friends with Jason House from Ghost Hunters or Ghost Nation on Travel Channel. We've got John Ruggio, who is a paranormal investigator, and he does I think the New Jersey Paranormal Convention. Something of that nature. And my other special guest, well, that one I will leave as a surprise. He has one of the top paranormal podcasts, radio shows. They're syndicated throughout the country. So pretty excited for that.
Pretty excited.
Yes.
Joshua, do you believe in ghosts or the paranormal?
I don't. I'm sorry. I don't look down on people who do, but
Josh,
he's a mathematician. Of course, he believes in he goes by facts and stuff.
Well, I don't know if I believe in this book now, Josh.
No.
I don't know, but nah, I'm joking. I love it. Love it. Love it. All right, everyone. Enough chitter chatter. The night is late. The owls are out, and we must go about. All right, everyone. We will see you tomorrow night. Josh, thank you again. Caleb, Billy, have a wonderful night, and we will see you tomorrow. Toodaloo.
Thank you, Joshua. Thank you, Caleb.
Hey guys, thanks again for tuning into Crowdfunding Comics. We look forward to hanging out with all of our crowdfunding fans every time we go live. And don't forget to click the link below and subscribe to our channel. And there's a little bell, you may want to hit that too. This way you get all the great notifications when we go live and when we upload some awesome content. You want to follow us? Sure, go right ahead at Twitter at CrowdFundComics with an X, Instagram Crowdfunding Comics, and Facebook at Crowdfunding Comics. Till next time, crowdfunding fans, we'll see you soon.